A.W. Tozer once suggested that what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. Yet our basic impulse is to take something entirely boundless and fit it into a fragile glass box that we can comprehend. We have a universal tendency to shrink the Creator down to our size. We end up picturing him as merely a larger, older, or smarter version of ourselves, carrying our own limitations on a grander scale. But the God of the Bible is not a generic deity we can recreate in our heads or borrow from a storybook. He is specific, distinct, and standing entirely outside our human imagination. To find out what he is actually like, we have to look at his attributes. These are the fundamental, inherent qualities of his nature, the permanent perfections that define exactly who he is. To understand the true Creator, we must first learn to think differently. We have to systematically discard the physical, spatial, and temporal boundaries we rely on to define our own reality. We begin by stripping away the physical. The first attribute is that God is spirit. He is immaterial, which means he is not constructed of matter, atoms, or anything we can touch. Because he has no physical body, he cannot be confined to a physical location. In ancient Athens, the Apostle Paul stood on the rocky hill of the Areopagus and explained to the philosophers there that the Lord of heaven and earth does not live in a shrine built by human hands. This lack of physical borders defines the attribute we call infinite. No space can hold him. Therefore, we are never physically closer to God and never further away than right now. He contains the universe rather than being contained by it. If physical distance is an illusion, our sense of remoteness from God must stem from something else entirely. It isn't a matter of miles, but of likeness, a moral dissimilarity between the creation and the Creator. Next, we have to erase the clock. While we experience a linear, ticking clock existence, the Bible describes God as eternal. To God, time is not a passing sequence, but a great canvas. He exists outside history, viewing past, present, and future simultaneously. Because he is outside time, he is unchangeable. While the timeline fluctuates, the observing God remains perfectly static. Logic tells us that any change implies getting better or worse. But a being who was perfect a billion years ago and will be perfect a billion years from now cannot alter. There is no variation or shadow in him. This makes God a perfectly reliable anchor. Because he does not change, his purposes and his character are the only constants in an otherwise chaotic universe. Finally, we strip away the last human construct, linguistic comparability. We arrive at the attribute of being holy. Holiness is often used as a synonym for purity, but its core definition is otherness. The Creator is distinct from the creation, pure, incorruptible, and described in the Scriptures as a consuming fire. In the face of this absolute perfection, human language breaks down. Every word we use to describe God is a compromise, a faulty attempt to put the indescribable into syllables we can pronounce. Lacking an adequate vocabulary, we are left with association and suggestion. We see Moses removing his shoes on holy ground, and the heavenly seraphim crying out, "Holy, holy, holy," an ecstatic ascription of glory to a being they cannot fully define. Holiness is the ultimate admission that God defies human categorization. He is a mystery that demands our reverence rather than our total comprehension. This leads to a difficult question. If God is an indescribable, limitless, and unchanging spirit, how can a finite human being ever hope to know him or trust him? The answer lies in the attributes themselves. His eternal nature means he is never rushed by the clock, and his unchangeable character means his promises don't have an expiration date. It is a staggering paradox. The same God who is transcendent and beyond our ability to comprehend has graciously chosen to reveal himself so that we can know him. Because we simply cannot climb out of our own finite box to find him, he reached into ours. The Bible explains that the attributes we've stripped away, spirit, infinity, eternity, are suddenly given a face in Jesus Christ, the exact representation of God's being. The incomprehensible vastness of God isn't a reason to distance ourselves. It is the exact reason we can trust him. We aren't relying on a God made in our image, but on the Almighty. the anchor who holds all things together.